but on a school or a hospital.
And if only virtually, he looked the former KGB colonel right in the eye.
To President Putin, I say, you started this war. You're leading this war. You can stop this war.
The Russian public has, especially my generation, has grown up watching Schwarzenegger. He's a beloved figure in Russia. And Russians have told me that his video literally brought them to tears because they haven't heard any Russian official speaking to them with such respect and compassion.
Still, Putin's propaganda and disinformation are unrelenting. This week, a Russian website claimed 3 American so-called mercenaries were killed in Ukraine. But the U.S. National Guard says that they're still alive and not even in Ukraine. They were guardsmen sent to train the Ukrainian military a few years ago. Some tech-savvy Russians have used virtual private networks, or VPNs, plus encrypted apps and other tools to get around Putin's information curtain and access the internet directly. But analysts say there are challenges with those methods.
A lot of Russian people still haven't heard of VPNs, or they cannot afford to use them.
What we've learned over in the Chinese model is that over time, the state gets better and better about how to choke those off.
Still, it's possible that the Terminator's message to Russians was seen by a very important audience deep inside the Kremlin. Vladimir Putin only follows 22 people on Twitter, but Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's one of them. Wolf?
I take it, Brian, the U.S. State Department is also trying to jump into this fight?
That's right. The State Department, Wolf, has set up its own Telegram app just to get into Russia, to address Russians directly and give them the United States message, on really what the war in Ukraine is all about. Analysts say that app is not engaged very much at all by Russians at this point. But the point is to try to chip away at this. And Arnold Schwarzenegger's message yesterday was just monumental as far as its impact on Russians, because they really love him there. That's the kind of message that's really going to get through to them.
You're absolutely right, Brian Todd. Good report. Thank you very much. Just ahead, a painful tribute to all the children, the babies, killed in Russia's brutal war against Ukraine.
Aaron Burnett out front, next on CNN.
We want to leave you tonight with a truly powerful image from Ukraine. Look at this. It's a sea of empty strollers, a symbol of the more than 100 children Ukrainians say have been killed since the brutal Russian invasion. Local activists set up the strollers in the center of the western city of Lviv to simply drive home the horrific human cost of the war and to honor its youngest victims. A Ukrainian woman who was moved by the display spoke of the suffering in her own country right now with her own baby in a stroller beside her.
I feel completely in pain. Pain for our children. Pain for the future of the country, because children are the future of the country. When they kill children, they kill the future of this country, its heart and its soul. You wake up during the night when you hear the sirens. You hear any little sound. You start to shake because you understand. Maybe it was another explosion. Maybe I need to take my child and run away again.
These are so painful to hear these mothers speaking of their children. I must say this, our thoughts are with the families of the children who have been killed in Ukraine and all of the victims of this truly terrible war. May they rest in peace, and may their memories be a blessing. For information about how you can help all the humanitarian efforts in Ukraine, go to cnn.com/impact and help impact your world. I'm Wolf Blitzer in the Situation Room. I'll be back once again tomorrow for a special Saturday edition of the Situation Room from 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern. Aaron Burnett out front starts right.
Out front next, breaking news. New images this hour of the utter devastation in Mariupol. This as hundreds remain missing after a bombing of a theater in that same city. Plus, Biden warns China not to help Russia. But will the Chinese president, who calls Vladimir Putin his, quote, best friend, listen? And he was a professional tennis player, now trading his racket for weapons. Why he says he's willing to die to defend Ukraine. Let's go out front. And good evening, I'm Aaron Burnett. Out front tonight, utter devastation in Ukraine. Tragic new images tonight from the southern city of Mariupol. And these are new drone images. This is a shopping mall, completely gutted. A month ago, right, people were shopping there, completely gutted. It looks like the entire complex, which is massive, has been burned completely through. This city has seen some of the worst damage from the Russian attacks thus far. We're also seeing these new images from an apartment building that Russia hit in Mariupol. Look at that. Look at that picture. People were living there a month ago. It's unbelievable. Completely destroyed by Vladimir Putin's attack. And tonight, a new satellite image showing a massive line of cars filled with people who are still trying to flee Mariupol. I want to make 2 points here. One, they say that more than 300,000 people are still in that city. We don't know the real numbers, but it's a lot of humanity still in that city that hasn't had any supplies since the 24th of February in terms of food. And also, we still don't know who's missing in that bombing in Mariupol under the theater that was marked children. 130 people have been rescued, but Ukrainian officials say more than 1,000 had been taking shelter there when it was struck. So 130 rescued. We have no idea about the other more than 800. And in the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv today, a downed Russian cruise missile destroying nearby vehicles, wrecking several buildings. Total devastation on the ground there. One missile landing near a kindergarten. These are the disturbing images that we are getting tonight. And they're coming as Putin is demanding full-throated support for his war at home. Today, telling Moscow's school teachers and state-funded university students that they had to attend a rally against Ukraine. One elementary school teacher telling CNN that her friend was fired for refusing to attend. Putin telling the crowd this lie.
Именно избавить людей от этих страданий, от этого геноцида.
To free the people from suffering and this genocide is our main initiating reason and goal for Russia starting a special operation in Donbas and Ukraine.
I mean, that is just that. I mean, that to free the people. Anyone there see those bombed out apartment buildings? Anyone there know that there's 800 people missing underground in Mariupol? And that's just the tip of this horrific iceberg. And by the way, it's unclear whether Putin's comments there were even spoken live or pre-recorded. The Kremlin won't confirm. But this staged rally, coming as Russian state television admitted, and this is important because they did it for the first time, that a Russian commander actually was killed in Ukraine. It's the first time they've admitted a death. Western officials say at least 3 Russian generals have been killed in addition, and no confirmation from the Kremlin on that. Today, the U.S. Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, telling CNN things are not going according to Putin's plan.
I think, they have not progressed as quickly as they would have liked to. I think they envisioned that they would move rapidly and very quickly seize the capital city. They've not been able to do that. They've struggled with logistics, so we've seen a number of missteps along the way.
Yet, despite these blows to the Russian military, Putin's reign of destruction and death across Ukraine continues. Fred Pleiken is on the ground in Lviv tonight, where missiles hit a military aircraft repair site this morning. Fred, what is the latest tonight?
Hi there, Aaron. Of course, yeah, you've been in this city and you know that in this Ukraine war that the Russians started, that this was always seen as a place that was fairly safe, where a lot of people fled to from other parts of the country as well. But of course, one of the things that we found out in the early morning hours of this morning is that no place is safe here in Ukraine. There were air sirens that went off and then missiles that landed at an airplane factory not far from where we are right now. Apparently it was 6 cruise missiles that were launched by Russian planes over the Black Sea that then flew here. 2 of them were intercepted, but 4 of them did land. Nevertheless, the Ukrainian military says it believes that it's halted Russia's offensive, especially around Kiev, but also putting up a massive fight in other places as well, like, for instance, Kharkiv. Have a look at this. Another blow to Vladimir Putin's military. Ukrainian forces claiming they ambushed this convoy of Russian airborne troops. While CNN cannot independently verify the information, Russian state TV for the first time acknowledged that a senior airborne commander and several soldiers have been killed. While still outgunned, the Ukrainians feel they might slowly be turning the tide. The armed forces of Ukraine continue to deliver devastating blows at groups of enemy troops who are trying to consolidate and hold the captured defensive lines, a Ukrainian army spokesman says. The Ukrainians say they are launching counterattacks against Russian troops. This video allegedly showing an anti-tank guided missile taking out a Russian armored vehicle. They also claim they've already killed more than 14,000 Russian troops and shot down more than 110 combat choppers. CNN can't confirm those numbers, but the Russians haven't updated their casualty figures in more than 2 weeks, instead claiming what they call their, quote, military special operation is going as planned. Russia's defense ministry released this video of helicopter gunships allegedly attacking a Ukrainian airfield. Still, Vladimir Putin clearly feels the need to rally his nation, making a rare appearance at a massive rally at Moscow's main stadium, where a strange technical glitch cut off his speech, but not before he praised Russian troops.
The best proof is the way our boys are fighting in this operation. Shoulder to shoulder, supporting each other, and if need be, protecting each other like brothers, shielding one another with their bodies on the battlefield. We haven't had this unity for a long time.
But the Russians appear to be so angry at U.S. and allied weapons shipments to Ukraine, they vowed to target any deliveries entering Ukrainian territory. And they're hitting strategic targets as well, firing several cruise missiles at an airplane repair plant near Lviv, while a Russian cruise missile dropped on a residential building in the capital Kyiv after being shot down by Ukrainian air defenses. Former world heavyweight boxing champ and brother of Kyiv's mayor Vladimir Klitschko pleading for more help.
This is genocide of the Ukrainian population. You have to act now. Stop passively observing and stop doing business with Russia. Do it now.
The Biden administration has said more aid and weapons are on the way as Ukrainian forces continue to put up a fierce fight, preventing Russia's troops from further significant gains. And they really are putting up a fierce fight and continue to put up a fierce fight. You know, one of the things, Aaron, is that we are now coming to the end of week 3 of this war. And one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that so far the Russians have not been able to take a single large population center here in this country, despite the fact that they've had these brutal tactics that have been going on. So far, very little in the way of territorial gains, especially this week. But what we do see, of course, is the fact that civilians are continuing to be massively affected by this war, Aaron.
Absolutely. All right, Fred, thank you very much. And I want to go now to retired Army Major General James Spider Marks and Andrei Soldatov, a Russian investigative journalist and editor of Agentura.ru, which is a watchdog of the Russian Secret Service activities. He's also senior fellow at the Center for European Policy Analysis, and I'm really glad to have you back. So, General Marks, let me start with you. The commander for U.S. Central Command today, General Frank McKenzie, told reporters, quote, Russian soldiers don't appear from where I sit to be particularly motivated. And we keep hearing that, General, but of course they are purposely bombing and shelling civilians with artillery outside cities, right? And they know that they're doing that, right? They're not clueless as to what they're doing. Help people understand what's really going on here.
Well, the fact that General McKenzie indicated that it's a spot-on observation. And there's nothing worse for a military unit than lousy leadership. And clearly what we see with the Russians is absent leadership. It's not taking place. Ukrainians, on the other hand, are stepping up. They are better equipped, and they're actually applying combat power in a synchronized way. The Russians simply are not. And the devastation that's occurring inside the cities will continue as long as the Russians have artillery, which they have plenty of, and rockets. And both artillery and rockets can be area weapons. They're not very well guided. You just shoot them in a certain direction, and you can achieve this level of devastation. But they also have missiles. They have precise, smart weapon systems. What they don't have good intelligence on the ground to mark those targets. So clearly what the Russians have done is their operation has stalled, and now they're just going to step back and start to pummel these populated areas, which is the terror tactics that we've been talking about.
So, Andrei, in Russia today, Putin had that rally, right? And he ordered teachers to attend. So anyone, people who worked for the government in any capacity, right, was you have to go. And a 26-year-old teacher, you spoke to CNN and said, I'm not going to use her name, but said, I refuse to go because this goes against my moral principles. And I told them that it is not part of my work contract to attend such events. However, I also have a friend from another school who refused to go and was fired. Andre, when you hear this, is this significant? Does it match with what you're hearing? And I guess also, does it extend more broadly in Russia right now?
Well, we are hearing some signals, some signs that, well, ordinary Russians now they're learning that there are casualties, there are people killed, and even in small towns and the central Russia, I know personally from my friends and colleagues that there are. But people know now that there are dead soldiers. They know that in 3 weeks of this war. But I would not make it really big. Yes, these teachers they were always a basis for Putin because schools are extremely important politically for Russia. It's where you have your polling stations, and it's where the ruling party of Putin United Russia actually got all these ratings, and that's provided by the teachers. So they're extremely loyal. And now, because some of them, they show that they do not want to participate in this, that is very surprising for the authorities. But unfortunately, we are talking about small numbers.
Small numbers. I mean, I guess you got to start somewhere, but I think your context is so important. So, General, when we look at these new satellite images that we're getting, one of the things we're getting is what Russia's doing. So what we're looking at here are construction of earthen berms, okay, basically ditches and walls around its military equipment northwest of Kyiv. You look at these and see something significant. What is it?
The Russians are transitioning based on this imagery. They're transitioning to a defensive posture, which means their offensive has been stalled. They're transitioning to defense so that they can resupply, reorganize, they can evacuate casualties, they can bring in some chow, they can bring in some additional equipment. That means to the Ukrainians, this is your opportunity to move. Take the offensive now, because transitioning from the offensive to the defensive takes time and it alters your perspective of the soldier that's been engaged. So the Ukrainians are aware of this and really need to kind of step up the pace of their operations. They can take the fight to the Russians now, which would be phenomenal. They're doing it very well, but they really can start to push back.
So, Andre, Russian state TV announced the death of the senior commander today. And it was notable because we hadn't seen it before. First of all, we're getting no casualty numbers out of them whatsoever. And now, today, they do this announcement. Why did they do this one and not the prior deaths that we know about, even, among generals?
First of all, I wanted to stress that this announcement was made on a regional television, not in Moscow. And in the city of Kostroma, where this regiment was based, and now we have a military commander of this regiment killed, well, they had no choice but to admit that something happened. So I would say we have some cracks in the system because, to be honest, the Russian military was not ready for such a long war.
Right, and they perhaps weren't thinking they were going to have casualties, and now there's a huge number of casualties. We don't know exactly how many. Thank you both so very much. And next, you just briefly saw it, the man who helped Arnold Schwarzenegger make this video to the Russian people.
I urge the Russian people and the Russian soldiers in Ukraine to understand the propaganda and the disinformation they use.
Plus 109 empty strollers, each one representing the death of a child from the war in Ukraine. And panic buying in Russia, fighting over packs of sugar. The Kremlin responding, saying it's because the people involved, quote, cannot cope with their emotions.